So I'm Mike Smith. I'm a freelance journalist who specialises in 360-degree video, VR, and probably social media content as well. Because two kind of things kind of go together. So I think they would have a point if essentially that's all you were trying to do, is you're trying to just put somebody in there and without any context, narrative, or any kind of things. If let's just say you film 5 minutes sat on the street with a homeless person to convey what it's like to be homeless, it doesn't really convey it. It might give you an element of empathy or experience in the sense that it kind of puts you in there, but it doesn't really explore anything. The whole point of virtual reality to a certain degree is you can enhance the virtual thing. So, even though you're kind of in this virtual bubble as it is of that video, you're sat in the middle of it being the director as the viewer, like, that doesn't offer anything really. Again, this kind of comes into why I don't think this is such a mysterious new field, in the sense that it still draws on a lot of production techniques and like how you craft stories in the industry. You still have to think about these things, you have to plan those things. Like, what is the story you're trying to tell? If you're in the story, like, how do you make sure that you're not having an impact on the empathy and the narrative? Because it can quite easily go from being about something, you might have a narrative for something in particular, but because you're in it, you're affecting the narrative as part and parcel of it. So then that, you've got to, again, these are some of the technical issues that you've got to deal with the technology, because how do you remove yourself from it, but if you do end up including yourself in it, it's like, do you become the presenter in the same way that you would do normally, and do you act in the same way? Like, for example, if you're stood out in Birmingham High Street with a 360 camera on a tripod, you set it off recording, are your hand movements, your gestures, your facial expressions going to be the same as if you were stood there with a standard camera in front of you? I guess it's kind of difficult, and that's where you've got to kind of look at how people are viewing it. If they're viewing it on a mobile and using the touchscreen as part of the interaction, then you're not really engaging. Like, it isn't a form of engagement and immersion, as we discussed, but there's no guarantee, like you say, that people are going to just move on to the next thing. But I would hazard a guess that quite often that, people will spend time, even if it's a static 360-degree video, moving their finger around the screen, getting more immersed than they would say if they saw a meme flash past on their news feed. One of the things I'm looking at the moment is like that very thing, that issue with time, like the FIFA World Cup. You can watch the matches in VR. Now, there's no way for me to get access to the BBC statistics, but I'd argue if you're watching a match, football, where you feel like you're actually in the stands, like, what are the odds that you're going to kind of get up and leave the game halfway through? If we're not making regular content in the sense of what mainstream media is, like TV programmes, news broadcasts, all that kinds of stuff, like, how can we say whether an experience should be 5 minutes or 15 minutes or half an hour, It's something I kind of want to look at, because it just seems that because someone like, for example, again, Washington Post does, or CNN does a video documentary that's 5 to 10 minutes long, it's automatically that's somehow become the norm, with the assumption of, well, audiences are only going to watch a VR experience for 5 to 10 minutes, and I'd argue that's not the case at all, because, how do they know that that's the norm? More importantly, you craft an experience the same kind of standard, or gamify the news in the same way to video game standard of something like Skyrim. How do you know you're not going to keep them in there for hours? I think it's both in the sense that it's experiential, but why can't you have empathy? Again, video games is a prime example. You might play a villain or a hero, but ultimately, there has to be that connection in the story narrative that makes you want to empathise, or hate the character or the bad guy or whatever like that. This is no different in that sense, and those are interactive experiences. You could argue, for example, probably one of the most violent video games, God of War, for example, murders everyone, like, goes on an absolute rampage, but through the interactivity and the journey and the narrative, you become empathetic for the cause, you understand why he is the way he is, what the character is. And is that no different to the way that you craft a normal story as a journalist? Like, you have to be impartial, but you know, you talk about like putting together an article where you write the words, you know, the inverted pyramid and all those kinds of things is still relevant to all of that. And you know, again, interviews, you know, you're not painting the person in a particular way, they're doing that themselves through telling their story or their truth. So to kind of sort of say that empathy doesn't really have a place because of the immersiveness or the interactivity, well, why does it have to be one or the other? Because they kind of quite clearly go hand in hand. Niche indicates to me a very small community of people around a certain subject. I think we can all kind of get to that point now where we agree VR isn't a niche. It's a worldwide, global industry. You know, that to me isn't a niche. The people that actively use it are not a niche. You know, sales figures in terms of, you know, headsets reaching critical mass, for example. You've got Oculus, you've got HTC Vive, you've got the new Vive Pro, which admittedly because of the cost is, you know, driving. It's not great in terms of sales, but the point is that there's an audience there for that. And then of course you've got the whole entry level element of it, of like Google Cardboard. You know, simple things, slot your mobile phone in, changes those Facebook scrolling videos to actually being able to view it. And you know, they're not perfect, they're not designed to be, they're designed to kind of be that kind of good enough for just your first experience to get you interested. One is we need people to make content, to experiment, to explore, because then it gives us case studies to go back and look in terms of that. And obviously we need mainstream media to kind of commit to things like that. But the second part of it is we have to come to universal consensus on like what are the appropriate ways of crafting it. Like, does it have to follow a specific workflow? So I mean, for example, I know lots of people in VR, I don't know anybody that's got the same workflow, for example, that makes it easy so that those that, like you said before, who are maybe video journalists at the moment or something, can adapt to the new formats easily without losing their craft.